Okay, could be. Okay, now we're back in business. Not sure why this doesn't want to move away. Okay, now it's good. Let's go. About it. Okay. So, okay, here we go. So we said that it's going according to Rebbe because Rebbe said that if the kibshe atzeres were shechted l'shmon, but nizuk shaloi l'shmon, then the shtei alechem are kadosh but not kadosh, meaning they're only kadosh l'chumra and not l'kula. So therefore, they're kadosh l'chumra and they'll be subject to a psul of yotzei and a psul of lina, but they're not kadosh l'kula, meaning you can't eat it, and the carbon won't be kosher. However, so therefore, translating it to our case, even though it wasn't the proper chalitza, because only is the rikika happened, nevertheless, it's enough to aser him derbanan, of course, on the yavamim. So then the Gemara said, no, we have a raya from a brisa that says beferish the same halacha, that if she only makes rikika, it's going to passel her on the achen, and she will no longer be able to yivam. And we can prove that the author of this brisa is Rabbi Kiva. And the brisa, in fact, said there were three cases in the brisa, but the two cases that we're going to focus on is one case where she only made a kriya. She only said those psukim that you need to say. She didn't make the chalitza. She didn't take off her shoe, nor did she do rikika. And over there, the brisa, the last case of the brisa, which is the third line from the top of our Omid, is ein kan beis michos. Nothing happened at all, and of course she still can do yibum. However, in the case of rokaka, which is the very last line on the very last word of the first line on our Omid, rokaka v'loy chalta v'loy karb, she only made rikika. That's chalitzasa psula, which means even though she's not mutter to go marry anybody she wants, she didn't get her heter yet, but she's no longer allowed to make evil. So the Gemara wants to know, why is it if she made a rikika, we say that the rikika has an impact in that she no longer can marry, do yibum with one of the brothers, yet if she only did kriya, which is also one of the three acts involved in yibum, in chalitza, if she only did kriya, it's ein kan beis michos, and meaning she could even still do yibum. So the Gemara wants to know, what is the difference between rikika and kriya? And that's where we're up to. So Zoktum Ulu Rabbi Akiva, which is 11 lines from the top. Ma'ishna rikika u'ma'ishna kriya. Why is it that if she spits in Besdin, then she did enough that now she no longer may do evil. But if she only read the parshas in Besdin, which is also part of the process, there she's mutter still to the woman. We say her words had no impact whatsoever. So the question is, why is the difference? Because of course this is midrabanan. So why did the rabbanan geyser by rikika and not by kriya? If you go through the process of chalitza, there is something that she has to say in the process before the process starts, and there's something that she has to say in the process after the whole chalitza is over. Therefore, if they see that someone makes a kriya and we still let her do yibum, no one's going to say, "Oh, she did a full chalitza, yet we're still letting her do yibum," which means, I'm sorry, because this is merely a gzer. This is not a derisive question of function. This question is someone's going to get mixed up. This is all about somebody can get mixed up. So if she makes a kriya and then we let her do yibum, no one's going to think that a real chalitza was done, because people are going to say the kriya that she did isn't the kriya that you do after the chalitza process. She probably did the kriya before the chalitza process, but the chalitza process wasn't done yet. Therefore, we understand why she's doing yibum, and we're not going to think that you're allowed to do yibum even though you've already done chalitza. But rikika, the betchila lesel b'soifisa, where's the right place in the process to do the spinning? After the chalitza. So if someone sees that a woman did rikika, that's all they saw, and then we let her get married, they won't know that that's all they did. they'll think that they've just finished off the whole chalitza process. Yet we're still letting her get married. People are going to think michlef alei. People are going to think that we allow a woman, even after she did chalitza, we allow a woman to do yibum again. So that's why they made the gzeira by Rikika, which only occurs after the whole chalitza process is over. So someone witnessing merely a Rikika will think that this is the end of the whole process, but they don't ask a Rikika because people will assume, they don't ask a woman who made Kriya because the people who see that will assume that that all that occurred was a Kriya, but nothing else. But there is another version of how this story went down. They said to the Shmuel, a woman that just bet tachloitz, now she has to make chalitza, meaning she cannot do yibam anymore. But we added another halacha. When she does the chalitza, she doesn't have to do the spitting part anymore. She's already yotze. In other words, it doesn't have to be in order. The spitting can be before, and we're going to learn in a minute that in Saricha Larg Pamacheres means Asr Larg Pamacheres. If she did a spitting alone, then when we do the chalitza process, we don't let her spit again. We force them to rely on the spitting that she did originally. I'm sorry? Even if it's at a later time, yeah. Like this woman, the Asr Kamei of Ami. A woman came to Reb Ami and have a Yosef Reb Abba Bar Mamo Kamei. And Reb Abba Bar Mamo was sitting there. He was learning Reb Ami when this woman came in, she needed chalitza. She did the Rakika before they did the chalitza. Omer lei Reb Ami, Reb Ami told Reb Abba Bar Mamo, take care of her. Just have her pull the shoe off and then have her go. In other words, we're going to accept the Rakika that she made first to be part of the chalitza, and then all she has to do is doing the pulling the shoe off part. Amr le Rabbi Ami, Amr le Rabbi said, how could you do that? But being merak, doesn't she have to spit as well? So Rabbi Ami answered, Harakakala. She already spit before, so there's no reason to make her spit again. Rabbi said, what's the big deal? Let her spit again. Let's do the process exactly as prescribed. First the chalitza, then the Rakika. Zokt Rabbi Ami, that would be a disaster. If we made her spit again, it would be a churban. Why? The Amrit had to say, if we make her spit again, people are going to think, oh, obviously, the Rakika before has zero impact whatsoever. So Ami Rakika Kamaisa less by Mishasha. People are going to say that a Rakika done before the Chalitza process has zero validity, and therefore now if they see someone who did Chalitza process backwards, where first the Rakika was done, then the Chalitza was done, they'll think it's not a good Chalitza, and they'll allow a woman after such a process to do Yibum, and that will be a disaster. Frag the Gemara, frag Abba Bamamel to his Rabbi Rabami, how could I do the spinning out of order? Babainin Kesidron. So Rabami answered, Kesidron le ma'akfa. It's not ma'akiv to do it in the right order. So Rabbi Abba Bamamel, when Rabami told him this, who suffered the chuya kamatchel, he thought that his Rebbe was just pushing him off, but really Keseder is ma'akiv. So Nofak, Dok for Ashkach, again, my favorite shot is what I want to learn to the Masifta, that he couldn't look it up. He couldn't look up the Mishnayos that he wasn't aware of, because it was expected that every time Chacham worth his salt would have already known them. So he had to go to the good at night for Meir, for the 10 o'clock Meir, and pull out the Mishnayos, the art scroll, and the Masifta that I could have had to look it up. And he found the Bryce, the Tanya, Ben Shehiktim Chalitza L'Kika, Ben Shehiktim L'Kika L'Chalitza, Masha Asa Asri. Okay, now we're getting to interesting Agadita type of stories. Levi Nafak L'Kiyos. Levi went to the city. What does it mean he went to the city? The Yerushalmi tells us that the city was looking for a rabbi. Did anybody ever see the Frisco Kids? So the city was looking for a rabbi. You know the story about Frisco? So the city was looking for a rabbi. Oh, look who's here, a rabbi came. So they were looking for a rabbi. And Rebbe said, you know what? Let's send Levi. He would make a very good rabbi. So Levi came to the city, and they were so bold that they had their own rabbi that they decided we're having Meet the Rabbi Day. And they put him up on a big stage, and they told him, Levi, we're all going to ask you all our questions that we have saved up for you to answer. And these are the questions that they asked Levi on this big inauguration day. Boy minei, gid mis ma'ushetachot, a woman Rachmana litzlan who has no hands. She's an amputee. Can she do chalitza and take the man's shoe off with her teeth? That's one question they asked. They asked the lady. The second question they asked the lady was Yevama sharach kadam, a Yevama who spat blood. Is that considered a good rikika mahu? And what happened was Levi didn't know the answer. He didn't know the answer to any of these questions, as we're going to see. Why didn't he know the answer? Yushalmi tells us he didn't know the answer is because the covet got to his head. He's a human. Levi was a human, and suddenly they're giving him such great covet, putting him up on stage and asking him questions. It was unbelievable. It got a little to his head, and it caused that he should forget his learning. Because gaiva causes someone to forget their learning. So they figured, okay, maybe he's having a rough day, and the lomdish achin, like Hilchas Chalitza, she's not sure about. Let's ask him. Maybe he's a rav who's not such a big lamdan, but maybe he knows most of the Agadita. Maybe he's a good darshan. Maybe he can help us with a different question we have. And the Navi told Daniel, I will agid lecha as a roshim. The Malach told Daniel, I will tell you what's written down as a roshim b'ksav emes, something that's written in an emes ksav. So the Malach is telling the Navi, I'm going to tell you something that Hashem wrote that's going to be true. So they asked him, Mechlal dik ksav she'ein emes. Are you suggesting that there's things that Hashem writes that are not true? Lo have it biyadi, and he couldn't answer that. But he wasn't a balgaivelik. So what did the Rav do? When the Rav didn't know the answer that the tzibur asked him, also showed him midrasha. He went to the Beis Medrash to speak to the Talmidei Chacham there to see if he could find an answer. Only they told him, as far as the first question, may a woman do chalitza if she doesn't have hands? Miksiv v'chol tzaviyat. It doesn't say v'chol tzaviyat. It says v'chol t'nalam aragla. Any way she does it is acceptable. As far as the question, if she spits blood, is that considered the rikika? Umiksiv v'yarkaroik. Of course, this must be only according to Rabbi Eliezer, because we said according to Rabbi Akiva, you don't even need rikika. It's not ma'akim. Avol agid lo charashum b'ksav emes v'chikyesh kshav she'ein emes. What are we going to do with that? Loy kasha. That's not a shverkeit either. Kan v'gzadin sheyeshi ma'shvua. If Rachmana litzlan the Rebbeinu Shloilo makes exadin with the shvua, then it's not going to change. Then we're in big trouble. Kam exadin sheyeshi ma'shvua. And the Mefarshim tell us the Rebbeinu Shloilo doesn't make shvuas. It's a kavayachal. It's just that we should understand that such a exadin is not going to be easy to overturn. The other type of exadin could be overturned. Could have Shmuel bar Ami? The Shmuel bar Ami Omer B'Yonisson. How do you know that if a gzardin has a shvua with it, that it's not going to be reversed, it's not going to be torn up? The children of Eli did Averis. There's a shaila of what they did. Either what they did was they would eat the basar before the emurim were brought on the mizbeach, and like we learned just yesterday, that when there are emurim and the emurim are kosher and tahar, then you're not allowed to eat the meat until the emurim are put on the mizbeach. However, if there's no emurim, we learned that you're allowed to eat the basar even before the emurim are put on the mizbeach, because there are no emurim. So the Bnei Eli would chop the meat even before the emurim put on the mizbeach. That was one shot. The other shot is when the women would come with their karbonis, they wouldn't rush to be mock of them quickly so that the women can go home and back to their husbands. Rather, they didn't rush and they waited overnight to be makar of these karbonis, which means the women had to do a business trip that was overnight. We already learned in Yevamos it's not good when women do business trips overnight. People can find out that they died, so it was a very big abla that they delayed the women from going home to their husbands. That's why they give them less priority.
Yosy, you said that the Rosham doesn't make shvuas. In this very parsha, of Shalach. He uses Lashonis of Shvua, and then at the end of Devarim in the Teich, I don't know if it's the Teichacha or if it's the or it's in the following.
It's that we should appreciate that it's the type of gzer that doesn't have that's not going to be in its career.
This week's parsha says Chayoni,
which is also a lashon shvua.
Yes. So how do you say it doesn't make sense?
Rabbi Raza was speaking this out b'shem. I think it was b'shem either the chinuch or it was b'shem one of the other rishonim, that it's just l'saber esa'isen. That whenever the Torah uses lashon shvua about the Rebbeinu Shalom making a shvua kaviyachol, the Rebbeinu Shalom is not subject to all the halachas of shvuas and Torah. He doesn't make promises. It means it's l'saber esa'isen. So we should understand that just like by Yasa, shvua is something that you cannot change very easily. So too, when the Rebbeinu Shalom uses such a nusach, it means it's not going to change very easily. So that's just one of the pshatim that said on that. I'll have to listen to Rabbi Rosner again to remember who he said it over from, so we can look at the source. So l'chein ishpati lebeiseli, once again a shvua im yischaper avoin beiseli bezevach u'b'mincha adolim. This aver will never be able to be niskaper with zevach u'mincha. Omer Rabba, so Rabba said, bezevach u'b'mincha ein niskaper. There's no kapara with this for this aver bezevach u'mincha. Aval miskaper hu b'divrei Torah. But divrei Torah will be mechaper. Abai Omer bezevach u'mincha ein miskaper aval miskaper b'gemilas chasadim. Rabba and Abaye, who are both kaihanim, midabes Eli kaasi. They were part of Eli's family, and there was a gzeira on them that they're not going to live long. They won't live past 18, and we're soon going to see. Rabba dasik b'Torah chayar bon shnit. He lived for 40 years. Abai dasik b'Torah uvigamilas chasadim chayar shitin snin. He lived 60 years. Well, dan Elton is nog een yeah. So Tosfos asks, I don't understand. Rabbi didn't do Gemilas Chasadim. Tosfos quotes a Gemara where Rabbi did a lot of Gemilas Chasadim. So Tosfos says, there's different levels of Gemilas Chasadim. So we're going to see in a minute what these levels are.
Yeah, yes. One more thing. Here, I just found it. In Hazinu, the words are ki esa el shamayim yodi. That's I don't see how you can get a better lashon shvua than that.
Yep. Yeah. So let's see what we have over here. First of all, Vasab is Torah, and the Marsha says that Torah and Avodah and the Gemilas Chasadim are the three pillars on which the world stands. They messed up, Bnei Eli messed up on the Avodah, and therefore, als eins Keteger Nasis Haneger, they won't be able to rectify their Avera with Avodah. So they need the other two, which are Torah Gemilas Chasadim, which also the Mashah has the word emes associated with them. Torah's emes, we know. Moshe emes was Rasai emes. So you see the word emes is associated with Torah. And Gemilas Chasadim is a chesed shel emes. We find the word emes associated with Gemilas Chasadim, and they needed the mila of emes to fix their problem. We're going to learn in a minute that someone dies, the Bnei Eli were dying at 18 years old. The Torah, which has 22 Isis, Torah which is made up of the 22 Isis of the Aleph base, are mashlim from 18 to 40. Because 18 plus 22 is 40. The Chavetz Chaim discusses exactly what Abaye did as far as Chesed was concerned and what Rabbah did. Because the Gemara here is saying that Rabbah didn't engage in Chesed. So the Chavetz Chaim says that Abaye felt that even normally the halacha is, if you're learning Torah and there's a Gemilas Chasadim opportunity that pops up, if it could be done by somebody else, then you're better off staying and learning. But if this is something that cannot be accomplished by anyone else, then you got to get up from the Gemara and you have to do it. So the question here was, these were all things, the chesadim that Abaye engaged in that Rabba didn't, were all things that could have been done by somebody else. However, Abaye held that even though these things could be done by somebody else, if they're done al yidei a gadol, al yidei a leader, it would have a greater impact. Let's say they need to raise money. If the gadol, the dying goes to raise money, it's gonna do a better job. A and B is it's also Abaye felt that if the gadol goes and does the chesed, it will be an example and it will prompt others to do chesed. The Abaye shita was b'chahai gavna, even the gadol should close his gemara to go do the chesed. Rabbi felt no. Since it's something that can be done on Yidei Acher, let somebody else do it. So it's this specific type of chesed, the chesed that could have technically been done by somebody else, but by being done by Abaye, it had a greater impact. That's the machloikis that Abaye and Rabbi had, where Abaye felt that such a chesed he should do personally, and in fact it worked out well for him. He got an extra 20 years, and Rabbi felt it's not necessary. Taner Rabbanan.
Somebody gives away, he lends it to other people.
Yeah. There was a family who were losing their children at 18 years old. They told Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai, he told them, you might be Einich of Eli, Shenemar, it says about him, everybody in your house will die young. Let me tell you what to do. And then you're going to live. And they lived. They called these people Mishpachas Yochanan because he was the one who gave them the Eitzah of how to survive. I'm sorry? I guess what he meant, they should be Isaac B'Torah on a much higher level. It's very good. Of course they were Isaac B'Torah. Duvi's asking. It must be that he told them to be Misamas B'Torah. Double down on your meaning. Shmuel Ba'unya Amar Rav. Minayin l'gzardin shel tzibur. Shein nechtam. The gzardin of a tzibur will never be nechtam. It will never be signed and sealed. Ain't nechtam, is that so? B'aksiv, we have a pasuk that says, even if you use soap, and you use different type of stain removers, nechtam avoynach lefonai. Your aveira is always going to be stained in front of you. So you see that there is no way out from this aveira. Now this pasuk should be somewhat familiar to us, because we learned the pasuk of the story of Acher, and in the story of Acher, it said that when Rebbe was about to go out of the Tchum, Acher said, "Oh, Rebbe, you're not allowed to go out of the Tchum." So Rebbe told Acher, says, "Guess what, Rebbe? You're not either allowed to go out of the Tchum. Come, let's do tshuva." And Acher said, "Nah, I'm not doing tshuva." So Rebbe must be a strong guy. He chapped Acher and he slapped him to the Besmedrash. And they asked the little children, and it was always accepted that when the child says something, it's a nevuah. So they went to 13 shuls, and in each Besmedrash, the child told them something that he interpreted as that he cannot do tshuva anymore. And one of the kids told him in the pasuk, telling Elisha ben Avuya that no matter what type of tshuva you do, it's not going to work. Ella, how do you know that by a tzibur, even if it's sealed and signed, the gzer can still be torn? It says in the pasuk, Mika Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kareinu elov. Who's like the Rosh Hashanah? Whenever we call to him, he's going to save us. In fact, Gemara, are you telling me that whenever we call to the Rosh Hashanah, he listens? There's only special times where the Rosh Hashanah listens to our tefillos. So Gemara like Hasha, a tzibur is b'chol kareinu elov. But for Yachad, it's only Behimatzai. When is Behimatzai? Yachad Eimash, Amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rabbi Barvua, Elu, Asar Yamim, Shabin Hashanah Yom Kippur. So people don't realize. We make a big deal, which is the right thing to do. To get serious my tshuva, to be misamet and tefillah, because the Rebbe Shalom is listening. HaMelech Basada. But every single time we daven tefillah with tzibur, we have exactly that same koyach. We have to realize that. We have to appreciate it. And when we daven tefillah with tzibur, we have the same koyach as we would have during a Shei Shemei Tshuva. So that's why the Rav always screams, we've got to have a tefillah b'tzibur. And in addition to that, can you imagine if you have a tefillah b'tzibur during the Shei Shemei Tshuva? that's mamish on steroids. That's already Yeshua on steroids. Those? No, it's by El. Well, yeah. Amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rab Bavu. Elu Asar Yavim Shabin Shana Yom Kippur, where it's Yeshua Hashem B'Matzah. Shochel Elavu Shmuel. Now we're going to go back to Yevamos. Yevamos Shiraka Dam. Tachloich. She now may no longer do Yivam. She can only do Chalitza. But the She'ef Shel Adam B'Lo Techtzuach Ruach. Even if she spits blood, there's for sure going to be right. There's for sure going to be a little bit of spit inside it. The article used the word spittle. I'm assuming it's a combination between the word little and spit. So it's called spittle, right? Meisvei. We know that the mashka that comes out of the mouth of a zov, like a saliva, or ziva, is tummy. Well, what if dam came out of his mouth? His tooth was bleeding. Or dam came out of his aver. The reason why they use the word amo is it's what we call wishful thinking. So the Allah is tamei, that such a person will be tamei. You might think it will be tamei. Tamador is zoyve tamei. Vein dama yoytim pivum pi ama tamei. So why do we say that the spit that a woman spits, and if it's only dam, why do we say that it works for chalitza? It's not tamei al tar. Loy kasha kampim motetzes kampim shoishes. If it just flows out, because there's a wound there, his tooth is bleeding. That's dam that we say does not have a din of roik. Does not have a din of mashka yoytze, and of course it's going to be tar. But what we're talking about is a woman who has her lip is bleeding, so she sucks on her lip, and then she spits it out. That for sure has saliva mixed into it. And the Mordechai asks, how, even if there's spit there, even if there's for sure spit there, why isn't it bottled? Why is the bottle done? So he has two terutzim. He doesn't say two terutzim, but there are two or even three terutzim offered up in the Rishonim. The one is that the only time you say bittul baroi is if you have two distinct things that get mixed together, one's bottled the other. But if they start that way, then you don't say bittul. That's one of the svars that is offered. Why you don't say bittul? There were other svars that I cannot remember off the top of my head right now. I don't know if that's ma'akev. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. Cheresh shenechlatz. So we're referring to the cotton part. We learned in the Mishnah that the chalitza of a cotton is not good. It says over here, cheresh shenechlatz, the cheresh chalza of the chalitza lekatan chalitza psula, and the same thing was if the woman is a cotton. So Zok the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. This that we say that the chalitza of a cotton has zero impact. Zu divrei Reb Meir. This is the words of Reb Meir. We actually learned this machlokes earlier. Rashi tells us that Reb Meir held that the chalitza of a child has no impact at all. However, this is the words of Reb Meir. I'm mixed up. I apologize. We already established that when it says chalitza psula, it means that even though it's not mater her l'shuk, it still is going to be enough of a chalitza that she can no longer do even. So these are the words of Reb Meir who give some validity to the chalitza of a cotton. Of a chacham ain't chalitza's cotton cloth. But the chacham hold that the chalitza of a cotton has zero impact, and in fact, even after a cotton does chalitza, you would still be able to do yibum. Our Mishnah is speaking about both. What we're talking about directly now is the male. When the male is a cotton, there's a machlokes if the chalitza has any impact at all. According to Meir, it has an impact that now no one is allowed to do yibum. And according to the Chachamim, it has no impact at all, and yibum can still continue unless someone does chalitza later. Now we're going to focus on the katana shechol. Amar Bidom Arav, two different Meir. These are the words of Meir. The Amar Ish Kashav Parsha. It says regarding the Parsha of Chalitza, Ish never says Isha. It never says the word Isha in the Parsha of Yevamos. It says Ish. But a makshin on Isha Ish. But we make a hekesh from Isha Ish. But it doesn't say Ish. So Rashi says, the Isha Nami Afagab like Siv Miyuta, but in Gedoyla Kish, you still need a Gedoyla. The Ishkis law. There's a Hekish from Ish to Isha in the parsha of Yevama, the Chsivil Kra, but also Yevimta Yashai. So we always refer to her as the Yevimta. But nevertheless, there's a Hekish that just like by Ish needs to be an adult, the Isha as well needs to be an adult. Ish Ksiv Parsha. And therefore, the man has to be a gadol. But Isha ben Gedola ben Katana, just like a Katana is good for you. We're talking about man chacham, where the chamu hold that the Isha does not have to be a gadol. Rabbi Yosy, Rabbi Chiya, Rabbi Shimon bar Rabbi, have a Yosy. They were sitting around. Pasach chad min ayu v'amar, and one of the two started speaking and learning. The Amar hamispalel tzarich shuyiten einav lamata. Someone who davens has to look down. Shenemar ba'yu einai v'libi. Shom Kalayomim, and Rashi says down means it's referring to Eretz Yisrael. You always have to daven looking at the ground of Eretz Yisrael, looking towards Eretz Yisrael. The Chadamar Einab L'mayla, and the other one said no, you got to be looking up to Shemayim. Shenemar Nisa Levavenu Al Kapayim. So the question is, what are you supposed to do? And the Hachi v'Hachi Asar B'Shmo B'Rav Yosy L'Gabayu. Rav Shmuel B'Rav Yosy came by. Amru, they asked him B'Mayaskisu, what are you learning about now? Amru Lei B'Tfilah. So he asked them, what are you talking about? So they said, we're talking about Hilchos Tefillah, and where are you supposed to look? Amar lahu kach amar Abba, hamispal tzorch shitin inav lemata, v'libay lemayla. His eyes need to go down, but his heart should be up. Kadesh yiskaymu shnei mikrois alone. So interesting enough, the poskim say, how could you tell me you have to look down when you're davening? Isn't there a halacha you're supposed to have windows in the Beis Medrash? Why are you having windows if you're not supposed to look up? So my favorite shot is Rabbeinu Yonah's shot. Rabbeinu Yonah says the reason why you're supposed to have windows in the Beis Medrash is because the Beis Medrash has to be properly ventilated, so the air should be fresh and geschmack. So even if you don't have windows, you can put in a good rooftop unit that brings in fresh air, and you'll achieve that mila. I'm not sure why this shot rings up this with me. This shot up rings with me. But looking, you have to look down. Yeah. There's like 6 windows. So, but the other shot, Rashi says the reason why you have to have windows is because you're supposed to look up to Shemayim to get your Shemayim to see the Rebbeinu Shalom. So to explain Rashi, they say you're supposed to look down the whole time. Yeah, once in a while you're supposed to look up to see the beautiful world and chap your Shemayim. But most of the time you're supposed to focus looking down. Zog to Gemara. Here now we have a fascinating story. Zog to Gemara weiter. Adahachi. So they're in the Beis Medrash, schmoozing and learning, and then Asa Rebbe L'Mesifta. Rebbe, the Shiva came to Beis Medrash. He was going to say Shir. So what happens when the Shiva comes in? Everybody quickly has to run to their seats to be ready to listen to the Shir. Inu David Kalili. These Talmidei Chacham who we were just talking about, meaning Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy and Shimon bar Rabbi and Rabbi Chiya, they were light, they were agile. Yosy they I'm sorry, you're right. Rabbi Shmuel is not. I just mean Rabbi Chiya and Rabbi Shimon bar Rabbi. They right away were able to get to their seats. But Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy, he was a little bit more of a stocky fellow, and he couldn't move. He wasn't so agile. So Agav Yurkrei, since he was heavy, have a mifs of Azal, he was slowly, so everyone's sitting on the floor, and he's walking over their heads, so to speak, towards the seat, which could seem to be disrespectful, like he's walking over their heads. Amalai Avdon. So Avdon, whose name was short for Abba Yudan, he made a remark to attack Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosy, and he said, "Me, who's that? Who do you think you are? Shemafse al Roshei Am Kodesh, that you could walk over the heads of Am Kodesh because they're sort of walking around while they're sitting down." Amalei, you know who I am? Ani Yishmael Rabbi Yosy. I'm Yishmael Rabbi Yosy. Shabbos Lil my time Rabbi. Ich will come and learn time from Rabbi. Amalei, so he told him back. V'chiata Hagun Lil my time Rabbi. Abdul said, "Who do you think you are? You think you're royal to learn Torah from Rabbi?" So I guess Rabbi Shmuel Yosy is going to shoot back a little bit. There's a limit how much abuse he's going to take. Amala, he said, "V'chi Moshe hayahagun lil my Torah b'pi gvura." Was Moshe royal to learn from the Rebbeinu Shalom? So I'm not royal. I want to learn Torah anyway. Amr Lay. So he told him back. So once again, Shmuel ben Yossi told him again. I'm sorry. So Abdon told Rabbi Shmuel ben Yossi, "V'chi Moshe ata? What, you think you're as good as Moshe?" Amr Lay, he answered back, "V'chi Rabach Elikimu? You think Rebbe is God? I could, of course, learn Torah by him." Now, of course, he didn't mean to speak disrespectfully to Rebbe, but it was a shtickle slide. Rabach, is your Rebbe God? So I'm Rabbi Yosef Shaklei Rebbe Limitarfasei. The Kamalei Rabach V'lei Rebbe. Really, as soon as Abdon opened his mouth, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Rebbe should have shut him down. He was attacking Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. So Rebbe got it back a little bit, because when Rabbi Shmuel said, Rabach, is your Rebbe like Hashem? He didn't say V'lei Rebbe. He didn't say he's my Rebbe like Hashem. So it was a little bit of a slight towards Rebbe. So Rebbe got his pay. In the meantime, Adahaki Asri Yevama Lakamei. Meanwhile, in this whole commotion, a Yevama came Lakamei to Rebbe to get a chalitza. Amalei Rebbe LaAbdon. So Rebbe told Abdon, "Hook Botka, go be Boideker to see if she has two simonim." I'm not sure she has to be a gedola. Now I'm not sure exactly how that bedika worked. If the bedika was up Abdon, or if he had to take it to a woman to be Boideker. I'm not sure exactly what the situation is there. Anyway, the Levosim the Nafak, after Abdon left to arrange for the Bedika, Amalei Rabbi Shmuel piped up and said, Kach Omer Abba, this is what my father Rabbi Yossi said, Ish Kasav B'Parsha, Avalisha Ben Gedel Ben Ktana. So there's no reason to be avoided this woman, even if she's a Ktana, the Chalitza is no problem. So Amar Lei, so Rabbi said, you're right. So, come back. I told Abba, no trichas. You don't have to check if she's a gedola. Kvar hayra zaken, the zaken Rabbi Yossi was already paskin that a ktana is kosher for chalitza. So now Abba had to come back, and you know what he did? Exactly what he said that Shmuel ben Yossi shouldn't do. Kamivsa, Abdon v'asi was also walking through the crowd, like over their heads to get back to the seat. Then Rabbi Shmuel took his revenge. Amalei Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Me who's needed to share an important halacha, I have a right to walk away. You have no right. We don't need you for anything. You, we don't need. And then Rebbe spoke up. Stay where you are. In fact, Rabbi Yossi is right. Tana, at that point, the Abdon got taras. Why did he get taras? Because he gets punished on his group with taras because he was choshet Rabbi Shmuel for acting improperly. The Tavu Shnei Banav, his two children died because if you're mechaber Talmid Chachamim, you zeichet the children Talmid Chachamim. Umiyanu shtei kaloisav, and his two kalos did miyun. When you do miyun, we have to make sure that you're not a gedola. Gedola cannot do miyun. For them, Mida Kedeked Mida, they had to check their Saman. Omer Rab Nachman Yitzchak, Brich Rachmana, gebenched their bones from the Kasfei Abdon, he embarrassed Abdon, the high Alma in this world. So there's a lot of things happening here. First of all, why did Abdon only get punished later on? Why didn't Abdon get punished when he first attacked? Yeah, but why did he only get punished later on, not when he attacked? So the Chafetz Chaim says the Vadi is supposed to give Musar, but you'd only give Musar if you're on that Madrega. Don't give Musar about something that you yourself are guilty of. So that's why he only got punished when it was clear that he was also guilty of that. And Chaim Shmulevitz asks, he embarrassed him, he destroyed him. Zokt Chaim Shmulevitz, the whole purpose of any onions that the Rebbe gives us is chas v'shalom, not to punish us. It's to make us embarrassed of our ma'asim royim. We should come to the akara that we did something wrong and we should be embarrassed by it. That's the whole purpose of an onion. We can learn from the Rebbe, from Rabbi Yossi's words, that katana chayletzes b'peutos. A katana could do chalitza already when she's 5 or 6 years old. She has some level of sense. Only when she's 11, where her nedarim are valued. She has to be a gedola. She has to be a gedola to do chalitza. Chalta b'shnayim. Then what happens if the chalitza was done with two people? You know, you didn't have a bezin. So this Gemara we learned already. So it's easy. The halacha is not like the pair of Tanaim in our Mishnah says that you don't need to have three dayanim there. Rab Nachman already said this halacha that you need three. You need this mentioned twice. If we only had the first place where he said it, I would have thought that you need to have three. But with the evidence, if there are only two people, it would be enough. Then have a meaning the evet. I would have thought that with the evet 3 is enough. But the you even need to have 5 dayan. The 3 is lachatchila and 3 is b'di'evet. Okay, let's stop over here. We'll be mamshich here tomorrow. Shkoyach. Feels so good to be cut up.